Hello, my friends. Ellen Patrick here from Mindfulness Meditation Monday, and I'm so happy to be here. We've got a couple of minutes as usual before we start, so I'm going to get settled in by lighting my candle. And as I mentioned before, lighting a candle is a nice way of creating this time and space as sacred. And it also symbolizes dispelling the darkness of our negative thoughts, the darkness of our misunderstood thoughts. And so this sets a good intention for our practice. And while we're waiting for our official start time, I invite you to come into a comfortable seat. Whether that's on a chair, on a cushion on the floor, even lying down is an acceptable way to meditate, but I always hesitate to suggest that, as we may get too relaxed and fall asleep and then miss out on the meditation itself. So I leave that up to you to choose, and let it be a comfortable seat. One that has a cushion, perhaps based on the temperature of your room, you may need a shawl or a blanket. And put things around you that are meaningful. Hopefully in your space, you do have that anyway. And while we're waiting to start again, feel your breath, your inhale, your exhale. And we're just about ready to start. Good, and so we have reached 5:30. Got my little chimes here, and we're going to begin our practice. So sitting in a comfortable seat, I wanted to talk about today, it's an acronym called R.A.I.N, R-A-I-N. And I'm using it today because, sometimes we tend to be very goal-oriented. At least I can say that for myself and many people. But in meditation, there really isn't a goal. If anything, it's about reducing our suffering. The Buddha says that pain is inevitable. Hi, Adriana. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So how we relate to the pain that shows up in our lives is really up to us, and how we address it and how we relate to it. And so when we're in meditation, thoughts often come up, and they're not always pleasant. And so we don't want to stuff those unpleasantries. They're looking for some sort of an intention. So that's where R.A.I.N comes in so handy. But before we get into that, I wanted to read to you something by Rumi. Every day a new visitor. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably, for they may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. It's one of my favorite writings of Rumi. And yet, when I first read it many years ago, I didn't understand it. And since I've made mindfulness meditation a very big part of my life, it makes sense now. Right? So sometimes our thoughts are not always pleasant, but rather than stuffing them and creating tension in the body or creating a bigger reaction from unpleasantries, we have R.A.I.N to help us navigate that. So close your eyes. Hi, Carol. Close your eyes and become comfortable with your breath. Feeling your inhale and your exhale. And so R.A.I.N represents, the R is for recognize, recognizing the thought. A is for awareness. So we label the thought, pleasant, unpleasant. Maybe we can narrow it down a little bit more, like anger, sadness. Investigate. Investigate asks us, what is happening with this thought? What does it need to know? How does it want me to relate to it? Do I need to do something? And the N in R.A.I.N stands for nurture or compassion. Right? We all have negative thoughts, negative experiences, or unpleasant experiences. And so rather than stuffing them, we clear them out, as Rumi says. Okay? So become aware of your breath. And our breath is always our anchor. So if the thought or feeling gets too big, just let it go and come back to your breath. But otherwise, let's take a look at what's showing up. So breathing in and breathing out. And perhaps tonight you're filled with positive thoughts. They too can be investigated a little bit deeper. So as thoughts pop up, we recognize it. Rather than getting caught up in any sort of a dialogue or drama surrounding the thought, we just recognize it as a thought. And then we can slide into our awareness by labeling that thought. Desirable, undesirable, anger, a joy, a sadness, a pleasantry. So we recognize a thought, we label it, we investigate. Much different than getting caught up in a drama. We investigate, what is this thought asking of me? What is underneath it? Particularly if it is an unpleasant thought, like sadness or anger. What am I angry at? What am I sad about? And what's under that? Fear, a reminder of a trauma, and the most important part, I think, is the nurturing part, the N in R.A.I.N, bringing compassion to yourself. We all experience unpleasant thoughts, unpleasant circumstances, big or small traumas. This is part of the human condition. Place your hand on your heart center. Take a deep breath in. Feel yourself soothed, comforted. Love yourself with all your imperfections. Know that you are perfectly imperfect. as we all are. And so this is the process of R.A.I.N. We bring mindfulness to the thought and recognize it. We become aware of what kind of a thought it is. We do a little investigating. What's underneath the thought, the sadness, the joy. And then we spend a moment to nurture ourselves. Perhaps the most important piece. Loving oneself, having compassion for our own experiences, knowing that we do not suffer alone, and that we can turn the volume down on our suffering. By recognizing and having an awareness of our thoughts, we start to become more familiar with our mind, our mind's priorities, and then we always have our breath to turn to for sanctuary, for rest. Recognize, awareness, investigate, nurture. A 4-point process of learning to live with our thoughts, love ourselves. And remember to place your hand on your heart when you come to the nurturing part. It's so soothing. And so we come to the end of our time together. If something big popped up, feel free to journal about it or sit with it a little longer, but know that your breath is your sanctuary. The hand on your heart will soothe you. Know you're not alone, and that we're all just trying to figure it out. I hope you'll stay in meditation a little while longer. And I thank you for being with me this evening. I look forward to seeing you next week.